Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to First Parish Church in Groton. My name is Donna Nowak. I use she, her pronouns. My involvement in this church is that I chair the Prison Ministry Committee. I'm co-chair, one of three of us, of the Caring Committee. And I'm part of a small working group mostly called the 8th Principle Education Awareness Friends. If any of these ring any of your passion buttons, please give me a call, talk to me. I'm in the book. I'm in lots of books. We are a community seeking to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to the world. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all, so bring all of who you are, all of your beliefs, identities, abilities, challenges, gifts, and dreams. Bring all of what you've been and what you've done. There's room here for all. We are not concerned about sounds that the children or bars or anyone else might make during the service, and we hope you won't either. Today, Lee is sharing the pulpit with Chuck Gamage. Chuck has actively engaged Unitarian Universalism for about 25 years with a strong interest in groups. His current focused interest is exploring various ways that people go beyond you and me to we. Our congregation includes a wide variety of beliefs, and we know that we don't need to think alike to love alike. We invite you to freely translate the language you hear today. Our sanctuary is not this room or any place at all. Sanctuary is what we create together. Please come in and rest for a while. You are so welcome here.
Stand over there, Max. Hold on, there you go. Thanks, Max. Good morning, Donnie.
Rachel Rott writes, "There is in this place the possibility of healing, of repair, of making things right within ourselves, between us, and with the wider world."
bells at the start of worship invite you to settle into your body more fully, remind you that you are whole. You belong wholly upon this earth, and you are held in the love that holds us all in tenderness. With each bell, I invite you to breathe and release, or close your eyes and then open them. This first bell is for you. The second is for your loved ones. And the third is for the world. Please stand as able and let's sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are, number 188 in your great hymnal. Is the symbol of our faith, of hope, resistance, and resistance to oppression and hatred. It was created during World War II when we were helping Jews and other persecuted groups escape from Europe. If you are with us remotely, I invite you to get a candle and light it as we light our common chalice in the meeting house. Barbara Rich will light our chalice today.
Good morning. Good morning. So I love the English language. It's the only language I speak. And sometimes I let myself notice all the mundane, ordinary, everyday phrases that I use, most of us use, without really thinking about them. So I thought that I would play around with it a little bit and see what I could teach myself. So I'm calling this Phrases Through the Ages. Barking up the wrong tree might lead to being lost in the forest where no one can hear us. Turning a blind eye could result in not seeing someone who needs us. Biting the bullet could chip a tooth. Let's chew on forgiveness instead and swallow the misunderstandings. Giving a cold shoulder, and we might miss the chance to collaborate. Instead of killing two birds with one stone, we can feed two birds with one cookie. kick the bucket. Let's kick gently. Forgive the relatives. Leave behind all the sunlight and moonlight, love light, and an unmasked heart, and leave new phrases to teach the children. And so sometimes when I think about what I've learned from these mundane, everyday phrases, and my heart is breaking from the news, either far away or close to home, it comes back to what can I do in my little corner of the planet? And so this came out. I'm calling it Not Easy. What would it take to invite your enemy for tea? Sitting beside someone who makes decisions totally different from yours. Sitting beside, not across from. And looking directly into the eyes of a human being who believes the world is flat or is convinced that the color of your skin is wrong. Someone who prays differently, votes for the opposite party, sends daily messages about wrongdoing and right doing. What would it take to listen? How would you deal with the thoughts which shout, "How can you possibly believe that?" Accepting what we don't understand is the work of many do-overs. Bypassing the ruts in our well-worn past, we might hear something we never considered. We might feel our clenched heart open its tightly closed doors and go and boil more water for tea. So this little light of ours, we're going to let it shine. In or out of church, we're going to let it shine. Up and down the aisle, we're going to let it shine. So I like the chalice this morning for teaching new phrases to the children and boiling more water for tea.
I'll invite Molly Sank to come up to light the peace candle today. Each Sunday morning, we light a peace candle to remind us that we live in a time of war and that there is violence in so many places in our world. May we have the courage to denounce violence and destructiveness and build shelters of peace within ourselves and our families, between us and in the larger world. Please remain seated and join in singing Spirit of Life. The words are in your order of service.
So
Jan. Good morning, I am Leah Kinvey. I use they, them, their pronouns. I am so honored to serve as your sabbatical minister at the moment. I will be here through the end of the church year, June 18th. And Leah is coming back next week, but we'll be sitting in the pews for once. So at this point, we will invite anybody who wants to be closer for a little participatory experience story thing, younger people or other folks who like to be closer. Come on down. All right, so we're not going to forget the words, right? We need the hand motions. All right. Georgie, find a place to sit. There you go. Hi. All right, so Jeff, will you help me with the hand motions? Because I got a microphone in my hand. We are Unitarian, Universalists, with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands ready to help and hug. All right. So first, I want to introduce y'all to Chuck. This is Chuck. He's going to be up here later on doing a sermon, and so he's going to help me a little bit with this story time. We want to talk about trust today. That's kind of a big thing to talk about. What even is trust? Yeah. Go ahead.
Trust is a feeling of understanding and like that you can rely on.
A feeling of understanding and say the second part?
And relying.
And relying. Yeah. Great definition. Yeah. Max, do you have something else you want to say? Nope. Okay. Cool. So we're thinking about trusting people, right? And when we trust people and like how that happens. And I heard somebody named Brene Brown tell a story about this that really helped me understand it even more. Brene's daughter, Ellen, was in middle school at the time. And one day she was at school and she had something super embarrassing happen to her at school. I don't know what it was, but you can imagine. I don't know. Has anything embarrassing ever happened to you at school? Yeah, okay. Or it could be somewhere else. But she shared it with a couple of friends at recess. She told them what the embarrassing thing was. And when she got back to her classroom, everybody knew the thing that she had only told 2 friends. Oh. They were laughing at her, they were pointing at her, and it was so bad. They were calling her names. So that's like one of the worst days ever, right? Can you imagine getting back to your class and everybody's like, this happened to you, and it just, that feeling. You want to disappear, right? So in Ellen's classroom, her teacher had a jar in the front of the class. And the jar had marbles in it, and they put marbles in when the class as a whole was making good choices. You know, they were doing good things. And they took marbles out when the class was making bad choices. And if the jar ever got filled up, then they got to have a big class party. What would you want at a big class party? Pizza or, I don't know, movie night. There you go. So the teacher had to like take marbles out of the jar. It was so bad. So Ellen said when she got home that, Brene said when Ellen got home that Ellen was just like a puddle on the floor. She's just sobbing because she held it in all day. Because when that happened to me, I would want to cry immediately. And when you have to hold your tears in until you have a place you can cry, because certainly if your kids are doing that to you in your class, you're not going to cry there, right? So she went home and said what happened. She told her mom, and then she said, I'm never going to trust anyone ever again. Which, right, you understand. And then they started to talk about trust. And Brene tried to teach her something about trust, about how it isn't actually something that you either have or you don't have. And it's not like you give all your trust at once or it all goes away at once. And then she thought of the marble jar. And she said, Ellen, trust is like a marble jar. When we have a relationship with somebody, then there is a marble jar. Will you hold that for me, Chuck? There's a marble jar between us. And depending on a lot of little things that happen, we put marbles in that jar between us, and we also take them back out sometimes. And then what we do is we tell the friends with whom we have a really full marble jar, those are the people we tell our secrets to, the stuff that's embarrassing that we don't want repeated. Because what do those marbles mean? They kind of mean trust, right? So, does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, trust, what they're figuring out is that it's built in really, really small moments. It's little things over and over and over and over again. So, Chuck and I have known each other for a few years. Yep. So I'm going to ask him if there's anything I have ever done that made him put marbles into the jar between us.
Yeah. Lee often talks to me as though I'm the only person in the room. When she wants to say something, there's no interruption and no distractions, and it makes me feel really, really good.
Cool. So, you want to put a marble in our jar for that?
Yeah, big one.
A big one. Big marble for that one. Yeah. Yeah. So does that make sense? So when you listen to somebody, is basically what he's saying. Like, I have listened to him in the past. Yeah. And have I ever done something that got marbles, we might have to put some more marbles in here before we take some out. Otherwise it'll be empty. Have I ever done something that made you think, you know what, that's kind of a marble out of the jar moment? I'm just going to ask you to put the mic a little closer to your mouth.
Okay. This isn't really bad, it just feels bad sometimes. When she doesn't have enough time for me. And she does this in a nice way, I gotta be fair about that. She tells me ahead of time how much time we have to spend together. And so then when she says, I have something else I have to do, and so I've gotta leave her. But I'll never forgive you.
Okay, and here's one for our relationship. You ready? It is hard to remember that I use they, them pronouns. But if you're telling a story about me, I'm going to ask you to try to remember to use they, especially when you're on the mic up front, right? So, but I'm going to try and do that in a kind way, right? Right, so that I'm not, in asking Chuck to use my right pronouns, I'm not getting marbles dumped out of the jar at the same time, right? Because I could ask that in a mean way. I could be like, right? But I'm not going to do that, because I care about you. Okay? Cool. So that, for me, that's one of the things that gets marbles added to a jar, is if people can ask for what they need. If people can ask questions and say what they need, to me, then I trust the person more. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, Chuck, I'm noticing that you're wearing a mask today. And what I know is that you've got infection on the outside of your nose. And so it looks a little different than a lot of noses, right? All right. Does it hurt?
Yes.
Does it hurt more with the mask off?
No.
Do you think we could hear you better with the mask off?
Yes.
All right. So what would you need to know? How would you need to trust us in order to take that off? What would you need from us?
I need to know you're not going to make fun of me
Okay.
or to just stare at my nose. That's kind of awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What do you think? Can we promise that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You're free to take it off if you want. All right. So, have you been thinking about what things that cause you to put marbles in a jar with you and maybe a friend? Does anybody want to try it? Zoe, you want to pick out a marble? You can take the little jar. You can take the little dish. There you go. So, who wants to say a thing that makes them put a marble in a jar with somebody? Sophie, you want to?
Well, my friend's mom got this shirt for me that made me really want to put a jar in because she's really nice.
Yeah, she did something really nice for you. Marbles in the jar. You got one, Zoe?
My friend Margaret's always there for me, even
Yeah, she was there for you. Anybody else got one? Yeah.
When I trust someone with like something that's precious to me and they like respect that.
Oh yeah. So by respect that, you mean like they don't repeat it or they don't make fun of it. Yeah, there you go. Carlin.
When people are kind to me.
Yeah. And it's little bits of kindness, right? They just smile or say something nice. Yeah. Or they don't make you feel awkward. Yeah. Anybody else got one? Max?
When someone keeps a promise.
There you go. Big one, right? When someone keeps a promise. All right. So there are lots more that we can think of. And I guess one of the questions that I have is, what are the things that make you put marbles in your jar with a person? And also, what are the things that help us put marbles in a jar for a whole group? Because there's a way that we have a jar between us, and there's a way that we have kind of a church jar, or a family jar, right? Or like if you have a little group of friends. So when we think about trust, we're choosing to share something, including just our smile, right? That's important to us. But when you're really talking about trust, that's something on the line here. I'm choosing to share it with you, and I know that you could hurt me with it. Ellen got hurt with her confidence, right? She got hurt with her embarrassing thing. And so distrust is when I've shared something important with you and it's not safe with you. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So we are hoping that our time, over time in church, we get a bigger and bigger church marble jar, and also that you get to build marble jars with lots of people here. People you came with, and people in your family, and also new people, and grown-ups. Right? That's what we're talking about. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. Does anybody make sense? All right, cool. So we're going to sing you off. If you would like to bring some marbles and a jar downstairs, you are welcome to. And we're going to sing you. There's also the chalice that somebody can bring. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your ways. As you go your ways.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Amy Grosso. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a member of the Finance Committee and the Stewardship Committee. I just want to take a brief moment to wish my son Avery a happy 19th birthday. It is today. Yeah, I can't believe he's 19. Time flies, does it not? So I'm going to take you on a short trip down my financial memory lane. For most of us, kids and adults alike, I think we remember with fondness the first time we received money as an allowance or a birthday gift or on a holiday. Maybe some of us will remember getting a piggy bank or a money box to store our treasure for a future purchase or save up for a ticket to our first rock concert. I'm dating myself here, but I remember the day my mother took me to the bank and I was given my very own savings book. Back then, you kept track of how much money you had at the bank through a book they would print in when you would deposit or take money out of the bank. I was so excited and proud of that book. And then I was saving for something that I wanted, and that I was being given a responsibility and to not take it lightly. I also remember just before I graduated from high school, my mom and I went back to the bank and I opened up a checking account and they gave me a check register. It was very important, my mom told me, to keep that register up to date and to balance my checking account each month. Over the years since then, I have to be honest. Some of the time I've been good and dutifully balancing each month, and there have been times, even years, when I lost track. But about 10 or so years ago, I started budgeting and making sure I kept a very close track of my finances because money was tight. There wasn't a lot of wiggle room to make a mistake or lose track of an expense. Right around this time was when I started to also incorporate my annual pledge giving to First Parish in my budget. Just like with my budget, sometimes my pledge would fluctuate depending on my current life situation. But no matter what, I always found a way to give as much as I could to this very important community. I've been blessed over the past few years that my financial situation has improved, and I was asked to be part of the Growing in Generosity program before the pandemic, which was a program that asked church members to consider increasing their pledge each year over a 3-year time span, and to tell the renewal of giving team what those amounts would be so that they had a better future pledge picture. I gladly did so, and I'm thankful that I was able to. It gave me the same sense of satisfaction that the savings book or check register did. I was setting aside what I could for something that was very important to me, this community. So here I am today, friends, sharing these memories with you, and you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with me? Well, I would ask that you take a moment or two today to think about what your financial memory lane has been. What lessons have you learned and would like to share with us, your spiritual community? And I would ask that you bring them with you next Sunday when we commit and celebrate our pledging for the next church year. We all have gifts and inspiration and lessons to share. I look forward to learning about them from you. Thank you. The morning offering will now be given and gratefully received.
This verse from Carrie Newcomer. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember? Bring me sprigs of rosemary, be my sanctuary, till I can carry on, carry on, carry on. Beloved Spirit of life and love, we come as we are, tired and worn, filled with wonder and awe, feeling worry and uncertainty and confusion and pain alongside truth and joy and the beauty of new green and children laughing and birds singing, and the memory that ours is no caravan of despair. We hold today close to our hearts and send our prayers to Charles and Pamela as Charles recovers from major heart surgery. We send our love to Lindy Hannon's extended family, following the death of Lindy's niece Vicky's son, Lucas. We send prayers and recovery energy to Kathy R. as she heals after her knee replacement, to Deb's daughter Allegra as she heals from being frighteningly ill with COVID. We extend our love and prayers to Lorraine Scampini and her family as they cope with her mother Natalie's illness. And we send Natalie our prayers for comfort and for peace. We send our loving thoughts and prayers to Diane D., who is the sister of a new community member here, and to Doris, Jerry, and everyone in our community who's coping with advanced illness. Help us breathe reality into this trust that we build, each with ourselves and among and between us, as we nurture this exquisite sanctuary of spacious grace. Help us remember how we are held in this love that no matter what will not let us go. May we be each other's refuge and sanctuary. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember? Bring me sprigs of rosemary, be my sanctuary, till I can carry on, carry on, carry on. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, for this little light of mine is 118 in your grade.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Chuck Gamage, and I use the pronouns he and him. Today I'd like to talk about emergence, a coming into existence of something that did not heretofore exist, specifically about the emergence of mind from the brain and the emergence of we. First, the brain. And I need to give you a math alert. This will involve numbers, because the astonishing scope of the brain is essential to the emergence and richness and diversity of mind. Ditto for the emergence of a shared we. I will let you know when we're done with a dive into math. So here we go with the brain. There are probably about 86 billion neurons in your brain, connected to each other by way of synapses. The maximum number of synapses on a neuron are about 10,000. The average is about 1,000. So that brings us to 86 trillion connections. These neurons and synapses form pathways. Each pathway has many interconnected neurons, and it's important what order they're in. The pathways have loops, and the order of the loops is important to how the pathways function and how a pathway resonates. Every single neuron pathway is unique, like no other. All those thousands of neurons and connections can turn on and off, or the order can change, and every time it does, it makes a new pathway. The brain is what's called a phase space. What? A phase space, that means it's an ocean of possibility. The brain contains all possible configurations of all those parts, neurons and connections. An unimaginably huge ocean of possibility. The number of possible pathways in your brain is something like 1 times 10 to the 71st power. That's a 1 followed by 71 zeros. Absolutely cosmic in scope. About the same as the number of hydrogen atoms in the universe. All in your average 3-pound brain in its own hard case. These possible neural pathways are diverse. I repeat, possible neuron pathways are diverse. And this diversity is precious because it offers a base for emergence of mind. Okay, our dive into math is over. So if you had a white knuckle grip on the rail of the seat in front of you, you can relax. What else is important about the brain? The brain remembers the activity of its pathways. Dr. O. Hebb, in his book, The Organization of Behavior, a neuropsychological theory, explains the language in the language of neuropsychology, how the behavior of brain neurons mirrors our behavior. We get good at what we practice, and habits form quickly as we repeat actions. And the more we repeat something, the more we remember it. Brains change physically as the pathways get used over and over. Kind of how your muscles change when you get exercise. For example, the brains of long-term meditators look significantly different from non-meditators. Likewise, some areas of the brains for performing musicians who practice every day differ. Likewise, brains of people who knit or weave a lot, then they develop changes in their brains. This phenomenon is often described as neurons that fire together, wire together. Most of our brains activate a huge number of diverse neural pathways throughout life. So, for each of us, our life story is highly complex. So, the estimate of 8 billion people on Earth today, each of us has a unique story. Parallelism. One of the remarkable features of the brain is that it's a massively parallel system. The result of that is that in a typical brain, one neural pathway can be driving a car, while another pathway can be looking out for pedestrians. Now we turn to the emergence of mind. For our purposes today, emergence means the process of coming into being. If you had a field identification guide for emergence, one of the distinguishing features would be that an emergent phenomenon cannot be predicted by examining the basic components of the underlying system that arises out of it. The human mind emerges from the human brain. The brain's made up of neurons and connections that in combination form pathways that resonate. Notice though, no one neuron or connection foretells compassion. Compassion emerges from the vast base of neurons, connections, and resonating pathways. And here's the thing about mind. It's not a thing. It's a process. Here are some more attributes of mind. While the brain takes care of neurons and pathways and so forth, the mind makes meaning out of all that brain activity. The mind is continuously growing as a reservoir of resonating meanings, memories, and story segments emerging from all those neural pathways. There is only one you, and your story is stretching and growing moment to moment. There is only one me, and my story is also stretching and growing moment to moment. Here's an example of what the mind does. Music. For many years, I thought that music involved a special part of the brain. Not just the thinking part on one side and the feeling part on another side, but a special part in its own right. However, recently I learned that music involves the whole brain, not just a special part. So now I know music is a resonance of the entire brain. And music, including the words that may go with it, is a kind of resonance of mind. Music transforms the scope and attention of the mind, sometimes temporarily and sometimes in a sustained way. Sometimes it even makes you want to dance. Another example. Consider the formation or reformation of a worldview. Such a sweeping change is called transformation. Some transformations are traumatic and life-changing. Some require courage. Some are tender. Some are fulfilling. But we recognize transformation because it usually involves a sweeping change inside. For example, some of us have witnessed an instant of transformation when a child suffers an event that causes them pain, crisis, or terror, and they go into uncontrolled sobbing. The sobbing is so deep and so all-consuming that they forget to breathe, and they end up gasping for air. It is then, as the deep sobbing occurs, that the child may be making a dramatic emergent leap in formation of his or her worldview. The child may then be experiencing a transformation, likely immediately, possibly longer term. As an adult, you'll not know what the child is thinking or feeling inside. The child can't put it into words. So we hold them in compassion and love. We hold them in the moment, providing a framework of we. When someone is undergoing such a transformation by trauma or as an intentional change, we hold them. We serve as a vessel for their emergence. We do so without judgment, without the need to fix things, without expectations, without payback. We feel something is emerging and it's precious. We whisper, don't forget to breathe. You are loved and you are lovable. Adults experience such transformations too. People go through conflict, crisis, loss, and grief. They go through divorce, sickness, the death of loved ones. We lose jobs, homes. We cope with depression, COVID, the pressures of serving as the primary caretaker for a loved one. Some of us are experiencing transformation by way of euphoria and joy. Now, when you, a friend or loved one, are going through either a surprise or purposeful transformation, or perhaps you're going through personal reflection and decision, you don't expect to receive help or support from the IRS. You don't normally expect help or support from your boss, your banker, the Department of Motor Vehicles, or Amazon. But you do expect help and support from the people who make up your dear friends and loved ones. Here's an unsolicited tip. When a dear one is experiencing a major transformation, the first rule of thumb is to show up for them. The next rule is to listen. And that's it. The general idea is to hold them, to serve as a vessel for their emergence as they contrive a new normal. We do this without judgment, without the need to fix things, without expectations, without payback. We do it this way because something is emerging. It is uniquely theirs, and it's precious. Your dear one is unique, and their unique story is changing. Note that when we support an emergence in this way, our own personal story is changed by this interaction. When you and I are together, there's a you, a me, and a we. A we emerges out of two complex adaptive systems. And these three, you, me, and we, each resonate. Each sings in its own way. A we contains diversity. As we add more and more people, from you to me to we, from culture to society to world, we breathe in more and more precious diversity. On each level, we witness and participate in resonance, change, healing, and the emergence of a new normal. So far, I've talked about models of the brain, emergence, mind, and we. Emergence of mind and we are processes that develop and unfold over time as things happen. Mind and we are, in essence, experiential. Since they're experiential, I'm going to invite you into an experience. You are, of course, free to participate or just listen. This will begin and end with a chime. After the ending chime, we'll share a few moments of silence. Then Sean will play a verse of Morning Has Spoken on piano. Then we'll join him to sing it, number 38 in the great hymnal. Let your gaze soften. Feel the weight of your body as you sit, how you're supported by the pew and held by gravity. Take this time to just be here. Simply being here is part of your story. It's part of your emerging. Listen. Feel in this silence if any other parts of your story emerge. Become aware of your breath, perhaps relaxing while breathing in through your nose, out slowly through your mouth. See if you can bring to mind a person whom you trust. This could even be a beloved pet you trust. If there is someone who comes to your mind, invite a sense of them and their story. Invite them to come to you. Maybe it's a sense of how they are emerging into this time in their life or what's unfolding for them. If you're able to, gently and tenderly, feel what you feel holding their story close. Become aware of your breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you were able to bring a loved one to mind, let yourself return in your mind again to them. This time sensing the emerging story of the two of you as a we. What does that feel like? What do you notice when you think of the two of you as we? Tenderly, make yourself one with that story for a moment. Gently hold the story of we as it unfolds. Become aware of your breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And finally, again aware of yourself where you sit and aware of your breath. See if your mind can expand gently and safely to hold everyone around you in this moment. If you're here in the sanctuary, maybe even all of us here, listen.
reach out with the other and know that we are connected. We are woven together with strong and sturdy threads of love. Go in peace, beloveds. Be the blessing in this world. Amen.